Good morning and welcome to the April edition of the Roundtable. We just finished a Dallas class with 24 new students, and so we're growing leaps and bounds in our association, as well as new members coming into this roundtable. So welcome everybody, and let's fire up and get started here. As you know, with these roundtables, if you're new to them, they're yours, and so it's largely for you to ask questions, to share ideas, to see what's going on, to maybe even give suggestions to us with the association on what you may or may not need. And so with that, just let me open it up to anybody that might have something they want to share. As it's quiet on this Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I've got something.
Yes, please, Brian.
Okay, so I've been doing commercial inspections for the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. I'm pretty much a home inspector, but I do maybe 10% of my work is commercial properties.
Terrific.
Hold on a second. Alexis, shh. Kids are getting ready for school. I apologize.
That's okay.
So in the past, it's usually been, okay, can you do this commercial property inspection for me? Yeah, please go ahead and do it, or I'll do it. And I've had one. I'm working on a commercial property right now, and they're pretty adamant about the scope and me writing a proposal, which is new to me, but it kind of is eye-opening to see that there's a shift in commercial properties, you know, that there's some buyers who are kind of knowledgeable about the process and what to expect. So I've been researching that, you know, how to write a proposal, because I had a Zoom meeting with them and we went over what they wanted to me to really look at, and then they sent me an email with the notes and asked me to write a proposal on it. And it's totally new to me. So I'm actually logged into the proposal class right now. I just started that.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to send you to, Brian. That's what's wonderful with commercial is we have a standard practice, and that sits on one side of the desk. And for all those that are so used to doing commercial or residential inspections, you really don't have any dexterity. It's especially if you're in a licensed state, you're required to do your inspections a specific way. But in commercial, every inspection has the opportunity to be a one-off event. You get to create, and the proposal is the codification or benchmarking exactly what you and your client are going to do, not to the standard, not to what you would have as your agreement. That would be a whole separate thing. But for instance, your agreement's going to say you're going to perform an inspection, and these are the limitations, and so on and so forth. But it's in your proposal that you say, and I'm going to inspect this building, but I'm only going to inspect the odd units. Or I'm not going to walk the roof because they are, or inspect the roof at all because the client has excluded that from the expectation. So the proposal really becomes an awesome tool for you to be the first opportunity to set the stage between you and your client and create those expectational points. Are they asking for anything bizarre? Oh, are they asking for anything bizarre in the proposal, Brian?
I'm sorry, what was that? I got a kid who's late.
Are they asking for anything bizarre in the proposal? Like,
no, just emphasis on the roof.
That you can't wear brown shoes or anything?
No. They just want a special look at the roof, electrical, and HVAC.
Okay.
And they want an overall general inspection of the property.
Oh, so nothing out of the extraordinary. So yeah, the proposal course will be a great opportunity for you to kind of set that. We have some great links in our website of sample proposals or even proposal fillers for you to use. And so feel free to look at those resources.
Good to know. Thank you.
Hey,
no
Rob,
problem.
On that note with the proposal, if it's just a standard ComSop inspection, there's nothing really special, the client doesn't really know what they want, they're just like, hey, I want this building inspected. Would you typically just point back to the ComSop and say this inspection is going to be of this building and it's going to be per the COMSOP, or would you spell out each individual system that's listed in the COMSOP?
No, I would send them back to the COMSOP. But in the proposal, though, as you remember, Jeremy from Jeremy was in our Dallas class, is that first page or the second page of the proposal really is where you would place, this is a 3-story masonry constructed building with 5 tenants. The roof is accessible, et cetera, because that's really telling them exactly what you're inspecting and what you're not beyond the COMSOP. So there are some singular moments in there that you can bring in the building, but for those that aren't used to doing COMSOP or to doing proposals, it's the very first thing that your client's going to see with your name on it. So make sure that you dot I's, cross T's, do your spell check. Make sure that it reads well, because if you look like a knuckle dragon ape, they're not going to have a whole lot of confidence that you're going to be able to do your inspection later. And then when you're designing yours, Brian, make sure there's a spot for them to sign it and accept it, because the proposal and your agreement are 2 different things unless you place your agreement in the proposal, which was something I did when I was running my ship. I also placed my agreement language in the proposal so that when the decision makers signed my proposal, they also signed my agreement, just in case later on I didn't get the agreement signed by the decision maker. I got it signed by somebody else.
Yeah, that's what I have now. Everything's together in one sheet. It's just something I'm in a franchise, so they have it put it together for us.
Oh,
so I have to
perfect.
alter it. What's that?
Perfect.
Yeah, so I have to alter it occasionally just to describe the building and some of the stuff that they want, but never had to actually write a proposal.
Yeah. They're once you start doing it, you'll go, because I've made that mistake before of not doing them and then doing them, and do I do them on every one? Do I do it in some? And it just got to the point that towards the last 6 or 7 years of my career, every job got a proposal, because that's how I was able to win more jobs versus just quoting on the phone, because that made my clients see that my level of professionalism was higher than somebody else that's just dumping a quote on the phone.
Hey,
Anybody
Rob,
else have that was great. Anybody else have something?
yeah, Rob, I have one. This is Luis.
Yeah. Yes, please, Luis.
On reporting softwares, I'm looking for a good one. But like Spectora, the other ones, they're very limited on commercial. A lot of it I get is they're geared towards residential, which, obviously that's what they're for. But when you go over to the property management ones, they're more like for work orders for maintenance. So I was wondering if anybody has a better one to look at to make a nice report for.
Are you using Spectora now for your residential side?
I don't do residential. I'm just starting in commercial.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, all of the softwares that are in the marketplace on the inspection side are all Genesis on the residential. I have worked with Spectora and I have worked with Home Inspector Pro both, and created templates with both of them that follow the COMSOP, and to the point where it starts at roof and ends with cooking area, and so it follows all of the locations, but neither one of them have narratives in it. But at least it will begin with that conversation of it can build a really nice commercial report. Everybody, if you looked at the 20 people that are on this call, I think you're going to get a half a dozen different answers, because every inspector in the world is going to be biased towards what they love or what they're comfortable with. So my best recommendation I have for you, Luis, within our website. I don't know if I'll be able to. Let's see if I can find it real quick. We have a inspection checklist, and the checklist it follows the COMSOP exactly. And what that can do for you is that would give you a spot that would begin any software you ever wanted to use. And it's a Word document. So that way you could create a template. So my recommendation, and I'll open up the floor to anybody else that's got some comments on it. But my recommendation I have is test drive all the softwares that are in the marketplace. But then after that, you've got this ability to design your own based on basically what appeals to your eye. And let's see if I can. Yeah, okay. I've got it all downloaded. So let's see if I can share this screen real quick. There it is. Can you see the commercial property inspection checklist that I have open?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, and so if you scroll through it, it's 33 pages long, but we designed it to follow exactly the COMSOP of roof, method of inspection, means of access, and then coverings and all the various coverings. And so this would be an excellent roadmap for all of those that are contemplating building their own template or their own reporting system. Heck, you could even use Word for that matter. It's not very efficient, but you could even use a word processing doc. But this particular document that we have here is absolutely free for members to use to help them design their own. And as I say, Inspectora, there is a COMSOP template. You got to scroll a little bit. In Home Inspector Pro, there is a brand new CCPIA template that's in the latest version 6 downloads. And so both of those are available. And I've worked with both those software providers. I've tried to work with the other ones, and they just don't seem like they want to spend any time designing templates. So to that order, I'm going to open it up. But I will say this, that we would be happy to share anybody's templates or make available anybody's templates that they want to share with anybody else across the country. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
Yeah.
Jamie.
Yeah, I'll just throw out, I think when talking about softwares, really it's probably looking at the end result, looking at the end report and how that's going to read to the client, to the reader, and how it's going to present is really what you're talking about. The features of various softwares will vary, but none of them are going to write your template for you. And all the out of the box templates, you got to create yourself. So for the most part, and I've been through several softwares and looking at all this stuff, it's really building out your template. So I would strongly recommend that as you're going through these courses, CCPIA, that you're grabbing content and building it out and doing this over time. And really it comes down to having a robust template. A lot of narratives, a lot of comments, everything within every section and subsection built out, that no matter the type of property that you're going to or the situation you're finding, you've got something there in the template. And that really takes time to build that out. Obviously every inspection you go do, you build it out a little bit more, but that's where it's at. Just in my opinion, not so much the software you choose, but what does the end report actually look like for the reader? Some may not like what it looks like with Spectora, with the the little boxes and all that stuff. It's like it's made to view on a cell phone. I'm not a big fan of that for commercial. That's what we use, is Spectora. But I will say that we're going to substantial commercial inspections and pretty much have it written on site. So that's nice. And I think there's a variance in opinions on how to do that. But the more robust your template is, the more set up it is. And if you're using an app on the phone to do that, there is something to be said for assembling the majority of the report as you're walking through the property and getting back to the office or getting back home and having the bulk of that written. I mean, I did a 40,000-foot concrete tilt up the other day. I was on site, 3.5, something like that. And within a half hour of being back at the office, it was done. Had to work on the cost to cure stuff. But anyway, so there's a difference there too, because if you're walking around with a regular camera, taking photos and then assembling the report back at the office or back at home, there's a difference in softwares there too. So for example, Spectora is going to be designed really more for putting it together on the phone on site. And then their web-based writer, if you're trying to bring in photos from your camera, is not as fast and efficient. So it also depends on how you're writing the report.
I agree. Yeah, everybody, as I say, we put 20 inspectors in the same room, and you're going to get 20 different answers of what they love, what they're passionate with. Everybody's got a bias, and so to that order, I mean, I would encourage you, Luis, to test drive just as many softwares as you can. They're all free. For the first 30 days. See what fits your eye well, and then you can reach out to friends and colleagues that are here on this call and see what they can do to help you. But that template that we have set up, that checklist, is an awesome way to start designing your software if you want it to be ComSop compliant. That's for sure. Awesome, Luis. Have you checked out our mentoring program, Luis? Because you could also reach out to one of the half a dozen mentors on there and see if they've got a software they can help you with as well.
Yeah, I reached out a couple to via email. I haven't called back, so I might just call them during the week, maybe later in the day when they have a little time to ask. Because what I like Spectora because of the mobile aspect, but one thing I've been hearing is if you see it, it's like HVAC, right? And it doesn't give, a lot of people want it just as mechanical. Go through it because the language is a little different. So that's what I feel is throwing some of the clients off.
Sure. Well, I can't tell you that I'm an expert at Spectora, but I'm pretty sure you can change the headings and change the language that's in their software to have it mirror the language that you want. If you want to call it Bob, I think you can make the heading at the top of the page say Bob and not HVAC or not something specific. So I can pretty much assure you that all those software companies allow that dexterity.
Appreciate it.
No
one
problem.
thing that I'm using for proposals is called Prosify.
Okay.
It is pretty nice. You have to make the template, but what's good is that after you send it to them, they can digital signature, and if they don't, it gives them reminders every day to follow up, and it can send text messages. So,
excellent.
Commercial's slow, but that keeps in front of mine if they did forget, so you can make sure that that proposal is always there in front of them.
Especially on those projects. That's a great recommendation, especially those projects that might take a month or two to go through the process or go to fruition of acceptance. And so keeping that in mind. Now, one other thing that I want to remind everybody of, maybe you don't know this, on our website for members, we have a half a dozen free download email templates. Each of those are designed for a different building. So let's say you're going to inspect a multifamily. You could use that email template to send to your clients saying, hey, thank you for calling, Landmark Property Inspections. And then it talks about multifamily. not another subset of commercial, and attached is our proposal, please review. And so I know we've designed a half a dozen different email templates that you could take and morph specifically for your company to really elevate your professionalism or elevate that discord between you and your clients to give you more wins at the end of the month.
So can you put that link in there, or I'll just find up on the SEC?
Let me see
website?
here if I can find it, and I'll be happy to put it in the chat. All right, it's let's see here. I got it all right. I placed that link right here in the chat for everybody. As long as you remember, everything on our website is free. And so it'll give you an opportunity. We've got a general template, a leasing template, so there's a couple of templates there, plus some other, ways you can think about that. How's everybody else doing? Anybody else have something they'd like to share with the group?
Hey, this is Travis.
Yeah, Travis.
Hey, I got a call a couple weeks ago about doing a residential, and the more I got into it, I realized that it's over $1 million property, and it's more than just a house. It's like 3 residents, and I was able to use the proposal to provide them a better estimate of what I would charge. I really appreciated that proposal there, because the 3 residents had 3 unique different properties to it. So at least I was able to look a little more professional and justify why I wanted to charge what I did charge, or estimated to charge.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
And
it's
so
you hit a certain threshold of house. It's really not a residence anymore. It's built like a commercial property or commercial fortress.
yeah,
And having this background as a commercial inspector separates you from a normal home inspector that might look at that same project in a different eye.
yeah, and it turned out that it was more than just a house. It's going to be the 3 different residents, so there's going to be renting part of it out for vacation rentals, and plus it's in a tourist area as well. So it was definitely on the commercial realm.
Yeah.
I also
According to
wanted
the definition of commercial inspections, that at least the one that we have and we use in the ComSop, it's any property used for profit. So that house on the lake, that might be a 4-bed, 4-bath house. If nobody's going to ever live there permanently, they're going to use it as an Airbnb or a Verbo or something. Theoretically, that's a commercial building. And you should be looking at it with a different eye, a different life safety point of view. All of those other intrinsic things should be heavy on your head in your inspection. And again, that's the separator between you and another inspector they're going to call is you understand those things where they might not.
Yep, and I was kind of concerned that maybe they was going to run away because of what the pricing was, but they did come back and asked to add some ancillaries onto it for like radon. So that gave me a clue that they're still interested in it anyway. They're not interested until May, but at least I'm still on their radar. I also want to give a shout out to Lance. I see he's got his hand raised there, but I was listening to his interview on Inspector Toolnet, or Tool Belt, I mean. And he gave several scenarios on pricing, and I've listened to that interview at least 3 times so far. I just really enjoyed how he went through the different scenarios on how to price different types of jobs. So a big shout out to Lance on that.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna tell him, Lance, you feel free to lower your hand, or I'll lower your hand for you. But you're up, buddy.
Travis, I appreciate that. I'm glad I was able to hop on there and do that interview and be somewhat helpful. I was hoping I wasn't convoluted in trying to put pricing together for people, but my process isn't the same as everyone's necessarily, or it's not the same as how CCPIA would maybe put it on their website, but it's been beneficial to us. So I'm glad somebody got something good from it. My question, Rob, is from a legal standpoint. So at some point, you will write a report or you will do an assessment or an inspection that will be used in possible deposition or somebody being litigious, and not against you, but you're providing a product and then your client may utilize that. So for example, right now we're in that situation. A 3-month-old building was created in Missouri that we inspected a couple weeks ago. It was a large medical complex, and the builder and contractors did an atrocious job on this building. So naturally, the client is wanting to seek legal counsel. And so I have had meetings the last couple of days with legal counsel and client to review my report before I publish it. And my question to you and the team is, what stance should you take if someone is to ask you, would you be willing to, be deposed in a court of law with your report? And if you are comfortable doing that, what type of verbiage should be in your report? What type of verbiage should be at the beginning of your report, talking about your standards of practice or talking about the use of the report and those type of things. I know we have some of that in CCPIA online already, but I didn't know from someone's standpoint like yours, Rob, who has gone through this process, what would be your recommendation and what would be helpful advice for all of us going forward in that?
Well, thanks, Lance. First and foremost, I am a non-practicing, never gone to school, not licensed attorney. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last week, and so I am an expert at that. Whether it's in your proposal or whether you put it in your agreement. 20 years ago, I added a line in the agreement that I used that said any use of this inspection report or the findings other than the intended pre-purchase or proposed use placed in this proposal is subject to an additional fee. So I had that already. And basically what I said, what that is even on the residential side, let's say it's a divorce. He's going to hire an inspector and an appraiser. She's going to hire an inspector and appraiser. Then the two are going to merge them together and decide what's the expenses and what's the benefits, et cetera. On a commercial, it's the same thing. And so last thing you want to do is get in the middle of a deposition or get in the middle of something that sucks up your day that you can't charge for. And so by having some form of caveat or some form of clause in your proposal or your agreement that says that this is a service you provide and you charge for it, then that gives you that opportunity to do so at an hourly fee. Whether you're $100 an hour for deposition, $150 an hour, $250 an hour, you need to be able to charge for your time because that's all you're worth. So that's kind of first and foremost. But every job you do, no matter what job you do, whether it's residential or commercial, but I'll speak to commercial, you're always going to be on the hook for somebody's not going to like somebody over something and have to justify what you did. So at the end of the day, if you write a report that's true and accurate and fair to the building, then you're never going to have an issue. Unless they want you to change language to be harsher or change language to be softer, then that's when you have to determine your personal point of view. But for me, I mean, I have been deposed and I have sat in depositions for several inspections through the years, and I just know that's a fact of life, and I need to get paid for it. Tony, you got your hand up, buddy.
Morning, everybody. In answer to Lance's question right now, in my experience, I'm here in California, and California is a very litigious state. And I tend to stay away from stepping into a courtroom in the middle of somebody else's battle as much as possible. I have been asked several times that same question. And I'll tell you why, because it opens you up, number one, to being attacked by the opposing attorney. And it tends to open you up to a cross suit also, where they want to bring you into the lawsuit itself. And the opposing attorney is typically looking to lay the blame on anybody else but their client. And if they can bring you into the lawsuit, it makes their job a lot easier. So I tend to stay away from those as much as possible, because if they haven't mentioned my name in their lawsuit, I'm all too happy about that. So I'm not going to go volunteer myself and put a target on my back. So
Sure.
that's my 2 cents. The first thing that any good attorney is going to do is going to try to tear you down in open court.
Yeah.
And if they can drag you into the lawsuit, even more so.
So is that why you don't wear a white hat at the beach, because of the seagulls?
Yeah, exactly. Mine has a big X right here.
Anthony, thank you, Tony.
How you guys doing today? I just did a meet with the lawyer for a commercial property that when I inspected, the walls were bowed in and out, they were tilted a lot. And they brought in the builder. And he used an 8-foot level, try to make it look like everything was level. And I showed him, I put the marbles on the floor, I showed him the slope of the walls with my tools. And everything got settled. We charged $150 an hour for me to go out and meet these people. And it was 5 or 6 hours that we met. And everything seemed to work out fine. I just make sure I put that extra fee thing in my reports when I do it. I don't know if everybody else has that problem, but that's how I do it.
Yeah, I mean, both of you are right. I mean, there's the last thing you want is to get drawn into something, but at the end of the day, you're going to make your best business decision possible. And I just always want to, always err to the point of, I just remember, I go back 20 years ago, one of our inspectors, I had 20 on staff. He got a summons, and he had to go sit there for 5 hours in a divorce case, sitting in the other room, only getting $35 for his witness fee for his entire day. And it's all because I wasn't thinking outside the box ahead of time to make sure that we could have been charging for his time sitting there. Because at the end of the day, all he did was go up there. Yep, that's my inspection report, and then got off they didn't ask him any questions about it. They said, "Did you write this?" "Yes, I did." And then they said, "Okay, you're dismissed." And so that poor guy there lost an entire day's worth of pay for "Yes, I wrote that." Lance, that help you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, as I get into it more, I can see Tony's point of view as well. I mean, I'm all about getting paid for things, but it's one of those things where, at the end of the day, you can only report on what you see and what you know from your professional standpoint, and then, that's it. So, but at the same token, he's right, because
using the tools that you use. And using the tools that you used. If Anthony uses marbles and somebody comes in there with lasers, the lasers are going to provide a different point of view than marbles are.
Right.
And we're dealing with a monster difference in scope, expectations, and everything else. And so, the whole idea is you need to be able to stand your ground, be able to have something to hold your hat on, which is the CompSop. and then make sure that that you have enough firewalls up to protect yourself from any blowback that might happen. Jeremy, please.
Hey Rob, yeah, my question is on marketing. I'm just getting started on the commercial side of things. I attended the Dallas commercial inspection training last week. And so what I've got started is I've joined a couple of commercial real estate investment groups. I'm going to go to some of those meetups in my area. I've got some meetings scheduled with commercial brokers just to kind of introduce myself and start building those relationships. But I was curious if anyone had any other ideas or tips as to, you know, where to focus your time and energy on marketing up front?
Team. Tony.
In my experience, if you're getting started, you what area are you located in?
I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay. So you're in Dallas. So Dallas, you're probably going to have quite a few other inspectors there. And I think it's critical that your website be up and running and be very clear. Have a good solid website, really tweak your SEO. In California here, we have quite a few inspectors, and the website is what has landed me the job. Most people are going to go, realtors are going to go and Google first, who's the local commercial inspector. And if you tweak your website with the SEO, you're going to pop up on that screen. And it's a lot different than home inspection. And Rob and I had this conversation where, you know, commercial is lagging several years behind home inspection. We have something like, what is it, 300,000 or 30,000 home inspectors right now in the US, where there's not even a fraction of that as far as commercial inspectors go. And so if you catch their attention, you have a solid website, and you really tweak your SEO, you have a much better chance of, you know, it lends to your credibility when you speak to somebody at these events and these meetings that you go to they have something to check out. First thing they're going to do, if they're really interested in inspection, they're going to check out your website. They're going to check out your qualifications. If you have a sample report on the website, even better. Anything that's going to lend to your credibility is going to help. Because if you happen to get somebody's attention and they have nothing you have nothing to back you up, they're just going to move on to the next one. That and start building up your email database. Start looking up all of the commercial realtors in the neighborhood. Start plugging them into whatever system you have, and start emailing them. The beauty of email marketing is that the return on email marketing compared to online and social media marketing is 40 to 1. For every dollar you spend, you have the potential of making $40 back. And that's mind-blowing, because email marketing is a lot less expensive than other traditional marketing avenues. And it puts your name directly in front of the person that you want to reach, as opposed to putting like a Facebook ad or something like that and then just waiting to see if it gets in front of the people, along with the other 1,000 things that they see online every 5 minutes. Your emails, if they're well written with a good subject line and your database is solid, it's going to get in front of them. And in my experience, what I do is I do a lot of blogging, and I'll write blogs on the website that are of value to the actual realtors. And, you know, something about commercial, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can write about commercial. And every time I release a new blog, I send out an email blast to my 3,000 plus contacts now. And about 1,000 of those are commercial inspectors here in Southern California. And knock on wood, so far my open rate is anywhere between 40 and 50%. So I would recommend starting there. This is something that's not going to cost you much more than your time. It's not going to cost a whole heck of a lot of money. And if you're trying to build up your business right now, that's probably a lot of what you have is time. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Tony. That's great. Very helpful.
You're having audio problems, Rob.
Can't hear you.
You're really broken up.
How about now? Is it better?
There we
There we
go.
go.
Yeah, you don't sound like you
Yeah.
have a stomach anymore.
We have, let me go back. On our website, we have a ton of articles, Jeremy and everybody. Use them. Use them to write blogs. Use them, as long as you source us
This one?
and link us, you can feel free. There's the royalty free. I did that for years when I was running my own business because the CCPIA had so many wonderful things. And so use some of those sources that are available, because white paper is the ugly enemy of the marketing department. Yeah, some people just can't handle white paper and starting from scratch. And so use some of those things to help you out. But no, Tony's absolutely right. Email campaigns. I think I had at least 3,000 in mine, and I wrote a newsletter every month that was fresh and unique, and not one that I subscribed to get those out. Jamie, you had something you wanted to add to help Jeremy?
Yeah. Well, not a huge fan of it, but the paid ads, the Google ads, so far, as best as I can pull together, it seems a significant uptick for us was due to that. And I think that's a whole separate conversation in learning that and figuring out how to optimize that and figuring out how to not overspend with that and et cetera, et cetera. But well, I'll say that if you have a home inspection business and then you're trying to do commercial, definitely set up a separate campaign within your ads. Don't try to add keywords to an existing Google ad campaign. So say you have a home inspection company, you're just, let me just add to my paid Google ads. I'll just add a commercial property inspector, commercial building inspector, create a totally separate campaign. And obviously if you have two companies, it's going to be separate, but anyway, and I would say definitely don't mess with Google's automated stuff. But when you separate class, maybe read a book on it, and there's lots of YouTube videos and all that stuff. But I found over the last 2 years that that seems to be one of the bigger drivers for us. Coca-Cola, Walgreens, people like that calling us, is the Google ads, paid Google ads.
Yeah, we have on our website, we've got articles about that where especially just starting out, maybe it makes sense for a period of time to do the spend just to get some influx or some inertia to your business so that you can put a little bit, 6 months from now or a year from now, you can throttle that back because you've got some business coming in. But Jamie's right, Jeremy. We have some great we have some resources on our website that talk about that, as well as you can just simply do a web search and watch some videos on it, and pretty soon you can be an expert and teach the class.
I have something to say on that.
Yeah, please.
Just don't look at real estate engineers and property managers. they're trying to cut costs a lot of ways. If they can get you and they don't have to send out an employee to do what they need to do as, let's say, quarterly inspections for like a shopping mall or something like that. Think about that too. That's a good way. So if you go to these real estate investment places, CBRE, JLL, Sodexo, they're going to have people that you can reach out to see if you can get contracts through them. So that's one thing to look into.
Excellent. Excellent. Good idea. That's thanks, Jeremy. Tony.
Rob, what's going on? What's up, everybody? What about, which I started doing this on the residential end, which I would like to get into commercial, possibly getting a CE class generated for us that we can teach commercial brokers, residential brokers. So I'm seeing a lot of the commercial that I've always gotten historically has been from residential brokers that handle commercial properties the same way they would residential, which then you meet them up with a commercial broker and they're not doing the same types of things. So maybe getting a CE class generated, a 2 or 3 hour class that we could offer, I think would be great. Even if it's not CE, just to teach. I don't know if we have something like that in the pipeline. I haven't seen it on the site. But what would be involved in maybe getting that, or at least a template for it?
Yeah, good suggestion. I'll certainly put that in the revolving door that we have of layers of things that we need to create. That's for darn sure, Tony. You're right. I mean, we're right now, just so everybody knows, in our creation world, we're deep in trying to create the entire section 6 of the ComSop as online courses. Electric is in the final pretty edit stage, and exteriors is in the third walkthrough of it before it goes to the final pretty edit stage. And so I'm pretty confident. I'm very confident we'll have both of those published between now and the end of the year for sure. And so we'll be pushing on the new projects coming soon. And so I'll certainly look at that. And we're going to have a fire door class, our fire door course, published before the conference as well. So that'll be section 17 of the ComSop. So we're trying our best to get as many online courses as we can for you guys to keep the value of membership as high as possible.
So something I'd like to add about the marketing piece. I mean, someone told me this a long time ago when I first got into inspections, and their quote was like, "You're in the belly business. If you want to be successful, you have to get your belly in front of somebody else's belly. So call them up, take them out to lunch, have coffee, get to know them." And then I'm not big on selling myself, but what has worked for me is kind of pointing out the value I bring with doing commercial inspections. I had one commercial broker, I did an inspection for one of his clients because he requested it, and it was a 12-unit apartment building, and the building was full of Federal Pacific panels. And once that commercial broker seen the bill to replace those panels, he has hired me for every commercial property inspection he's sold, including his own. And then I had another commercial broker, same setup. The buyer wanted it, and it was an old warehouse that was, it was a Pet Boys automotive store that closed. And I pointed out water had been getting into the walls and leaking into the floor because the roof was put on kittywampus. The holes for the gutters that they attached to ran over the top of the wall on the back corner of the building. And he called me back and appreciated it. So that was it was like $125,000 repair job. And ever since that, the guy has been using me for all of his commercial properties.
Yeah. Yeah, it's each one tells one, what all you gotta do is a good job. I know for me, and I reach out to my old company all the time, to go to what Tony and Jamie were saying. When I started my commercial business, I was 100% buyer and 0% realtor. And even still today, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years later, there's still 60-40, 60% buyers and 40% realtor referrals. And that's a good, healthy spot to be in, and tells that the marketing efforts of a good website and proper placement of the SEO works. Because I know for a fact we weren't doing a spend. All this was organic. We weren't doing a tremendous spend every month, because if you've got a properly positioned website with good keywords and good tags in it, the website builds you business. But the key is, and this is what I was telling everybody. I'm not sure, Jeremy, last week if you heard or not. Some of the people that walk up to me and talk to me at lunch or when we're standing there, even if you're not working this week, put a picture of a building in your website. Put a picture on your Google My Business listing. Shows a new building. Put a sentence underneath of it that talks about the masonry or the concrete or the roof, and that makes Google think, and the internet and all the other search engines think, that you are a very busy business with lots of clients. And I'm not saying you're tricking them, but you're using their algorithms to help you, and that costs you nothing. And as far as I'm concerned, free is my favorite word in the world. And if it ends with free beer, then that's my second two favorite words put together. I love talking about marketing, and I love sitting there and talking to everybody. And I guess this will dovetail a couple of different things. I want to remind everybody that we do these roundtables every month. Our next one will be May 14th. So I'll put that up on the website. Most likely in the next day or so, we'll have that updated. It's going to be so exciting in August for anybody that makes the trip out to Orlando. This roundtable is going to be live. And it's going to and live being, we're going to have our own breakout room, and now I've found out that we're going to buy dinner for everybody that comes to the breakout room, and Lance is going to facilitate that meeting, which is absolutely awesome. And so if you're going to go to the InterNACHI convention, if you're going to go to the CCPIA convention where InterNACHI happens to be part of, on Thursday you'll get a free dinner with InterNACHI. My guess would be on Friday you're gonna probably have the dinner with the CCPIA, and then Friday and Saturday are the conferences, and so this could be a pretty awesome event for anybody. Again, we have 6 sessions that'll go on that are commercial. If you don't remember what they are, we're going to have a phase 1 session, a session on infrared camera work just on commercial. We're going to have a session on building a multi-inspector firm, a session on building multi-person buildings like multi-family properties. We're going to have a session on the first 5 steps of starting a commercial business. And then we're going to have a session on fire doors. So it's going to be a pretty awesome couple days of commercial sessions for you to consider. But beyond that, does anybody else have anything that they'd like to share? I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We've got as much as you want, but we're scheduled for another couple more minutes. Jamie.
I'll throw out a quick topic if we have time. I was just curious how everyone's handling pricing accessibility inspection or ADA survey. So maybe if you're just following the ComSop and going through answering all the yes, no, unknown, not applicable. I'm working through structuring pricing, and naturally it seems like as the project is larger and there's more restrooms and there's a bigger parking lot, that you kind of go up. So I'm putting pen to paper on sort of a tiered pricing specifically though with the accessibility and kind of like Lance has said many times, thinking about hours you're going to have into it. But just curious if anyone had thoughts on how you're structuring that.
Awesome question. Yeah. Anybody has some experience in doing the accessibility inspections and following section 17 and what they're charging?
Yeah, I can speak to it real quick. I'm sure others can too. And this again, we're in CCPIA, but coming from the, ASTM 2018-15E, an accessibility survey, very similar to what we offer at CCPIA, is the standard. It's not an additional service on their side. It's just something you do. And it's just like you said, Jamie, walk it around. It's basic. Check yes. How many parking spots are there? Are there enough parking spots? What's the clearance of the doorknobs, height of counters? Those things are really simplistic. I offer that as an additional. If anyone wants me to just walk around and provide, do that survey, I may charge a couple extra hours to do it. But to do a true ADA survey, something similar to if you went on the ADA website and you got all their documents and filled it out, from the contractors that I have worked with in the past that have provided that service, I mean, that's almost like a 2 or 3 day service on some of these buildings that we do. And so it is quite substantial as far as what they're actually providing and measuring and doing. And so while our survey that we have is very simplistic, I think it's something simple that we can do. No problem. I think it's a great add-on for a couple $100. But a true ADA survey is a much bigger thing. And to me personally, I think it goes beyond, our standard as what we're doing just within CCPIA's ComSop. The biggest thing is in Oklahoma and the surrounding states I work in, especially, it might be different for other, like Tony said, he's got a very litigious state. Usually ADA surveys don't come about unless there's an issue with a building or they're repurposing a building and they're having to, update it for new use. And so at that point, I know there's contractors in our area that just do ADA. So I'd be interested to know what else anyone else has gotten into with that, if they have provided a full, ADA survey or walkthrough themselves. We've only done, I keep saying survey, I apologize. The survey that we have through CCPIA, the simple checklist, that's very simplistic. It's all something I think easily can do. The full blown like ADA inspection, where you're really going through the building from top to bottom, that's a different service altogether. I'd be interested to know if anyone has done that and has done it successfully.
Thanks, Lance. Yeah, we've brought in third parties that do it, and they're charging as much as you might charge for your commercial property inspection. 30,000 square foot office building, they charge 5,000, and here in California they might call that a CASP inspection, which is the full blown. But yeah, I'm more thinking of just meeting the sorry, I got a dog barking. What's in the ASTM standard in the CCPIA. It does seem that most of the PCAs I've seen, at least in our area, it's just part of it and not a separate charge. So perhaps the basic accessibility inspection could be rolled in just as a selling point and as part of your inspection rather than charging separately. Or I'm thinking too of when you're putting together a proposal and you're thinking about how long this project's going to take, add in some extra time that you're going to include this. But to some extent, some of the larger portfolio type clients are expecting a property condition assessment per the ASTM standard here. And that's just seems to be in what a lot of our competitors are doing. So, yeah, we've had quite a few clients interested in it just for their own liability sake. Am I going to have a problem, get sued, and all that stuff? And so sometimes, depending on what they were asking for, we set them up with a third party that does the full blown, or start with us. But anyway, it's I don't know. So far in the smaller buildings, you're adding 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more on the bigger buildings. But once again, like we talked about earlier, with the software and the templates and all that stuff, that's really where it's at. is building that all into your software. I think Tony and I were just talking about this recently. He's got his hand up. Go for it.
The other key, if you're going to do any accessibility inspections, we have an online course that'll get you prepared for it. We have checklists, and the checklists we have are not dissimilar to those ones you'll find on checklists from the Americans with Disability Act's website. But the key is, if you're going to do accessibility inspections, even whether it's an ancillary service or whether it's going to be as a included service, we do have an agreement that you can use that'll make sure it sets those expectations and sets the stage with your clients and protects you. Tony, you had your hand up, please.
Yeah, Jamie and I spoke about this it was last week, I think. You're right, the ASTM does have a built-in, it's very quick checklist. That's just part of the add-on. But I think there's some room here to build something out more than just the ASTM and sell that as an ancillary service. It requires a little bit more work. I've been building my template, and it's a lot more work than I thought it was. But I know that when I get, like Jamie said earlier about building out your template, the software is not as important what software it is. It's just how much time you're willing to spend on tweaking it and building it out. I'm using a combination of the ADA checklist, and which is pretty extensive, and the CCPIA, and just dropping a lot of comments in there. And I did one recently where the client called, and again, your website, they found my website because of my SEO, and they wanted that specifically, and it ended up rolling out as a accessibility / life safety assessment. They had 3 separate buildings. And I started pricing out competition, and some of the CASP. And for those of you who are not here in California, CASP is a certified accessibility specialist, and it's a state certification. And I hear it's an ass-kicking exam. And I saw the reference material that you have to study to pass this exam, and it's like passing the ICC exam. So I'm still. I'm putting that on hold for a little bit, because it really requires a lot of effort to get that certification. But in the meantime, I'm still building out my template to offer this as a separate service altogether. And some of these guys are charging a couple $1,000s for doing this. And I ended up landing this one. It was a nonprofit, which I support their what they do. So I ended up giving them a discount and still charged a little over $1,000. And I was there for 2.5 hours. Put the report together in a couple of hours, and everybody was all too happy. So there is definitely some room to offer this in a commercial environment as a standalone or a separate, more in-depth than the typical ASTM.
Awesome. Anybody else have anything that they'd love to add or comment on with accessibility or anything else? Well, terrific. Thank you again for taking time out of your Tuesday. May 14th will be our next meeting, or next availability. We do have coming up, if you know anybody looking to get into commercial, or you have the employees or yourself that wants to attend a class, we do have an upcoming class beginning of May in Brentwood, Tennessee, as well as another one coming up in June in Boulder at the House of Horrors. And then we're off the road for the rest of the year, getting ready for the conference and writing some courses. So with that, thank you for spending the time, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Rob.
Rob.
Yeah, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.